I can't believe I almost hit start the webinar without hitting record. And I would be so angry at myself. I'd be begging Harry to be like, later on this weekend, let's like redo this again. So that way the replays could be up. That's like one of my biggest fears constantly for everybody watching is, and especially those watching the replays, is me forgetting to hit the record button. So like somebody like, this is the one talk I wanted to see. And they're like, yeah, Ben's a wingnut. He missed the button. But good morning, everybody, or I should say good morning for everybody in the US. I know it's uber early for people on the West Coast. I know over in Europe and the UK, is it like afternoon time for y'all? Good morning from Canada. Awesome. So, like, here's one of the things I'm super excited about with like having Harry share. AI is really changing the game, but like, here's one of the things that just like AI was cool. It was a fancy fad at first, but then you could really see like who was really just okay. ChatGPT wrote that. There was no human touch to that. Like that just looks bad, and you could just like see it now. Harry's going to share exactly what to do with AI while still keeping the human touch, and it's one of the, I think going to be one of the things that's going to separate a lot of recruiters from what they're doing now to being able to 5 and 10x themselves. So, real quick before we get going, I will go ahead and actually get give me real quick. Awesome. Oh yeah, perfect. Ernie, you are awesome. If you want to connect with other recruiters that are excited about growing in 2025, drop your LinkedIn profile in the chat and let's get going. Harry, all you, buddy.
Awesome. I appreciate the intro, Ben, and great to see everyone. Really appreciate it. By the way, it looks a bit pink in the background. Apologies, I'm not actually in a nightclub or a bar. I'm in the office at the moment with the logo in the background, so that's why it looks a bit funny. But today, as Ben said, I'm very excited to speak with you about how you can use AI and automation for your recruitment BD campaigns, mainly on the BD side, obviously without losing the human touch. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. But just so you know, if you want to put any questions in at any point, just put it in the chat or put it in the Q&A. We'll do a little Q&A at the end. But if questions pop up, put them in the chat and I can address them there if it's the right time. If not, we'll wait to the end. But I'll go ahead and share my screen. So just let me know if you can see this. Let me see if I can get zoom up. Cool. I mean, I can't actually see the questions, I don't think, the Q&A. So I'm gonna hopefully, oh no, I can. I've got it up here. We can see. Perfect. Cool. Glad everyone can see it. So I can get started. Awesome. Looks good. So obviously, how we can use AI and automation to sign more clients, right? So it's going to be mainly around business development, but we can also throw some slight bits around candidate sourcing in there as well, but without losing the human touch, right? So what are the opportunities and also the threats of AI in 2025? It's going to be one of the biggest trends in 2025 is how to actually use AI. So I've spent the last sort of couple of years, 2 years developing this skill. So I want to share with you today what I've learned. Now, what I want to get started with is exactly what Ben said. When a lot of people think about AI, you might be thinking about something like this, right? You might be thinking about a message that looks like this, super generic, super broad, and you can tell it's written by AI. This is honestly still how 90% of the market sees AI and how 90% of the market use AI. They just put something into ChatGPT with a small prompt and they get out something like this and they start to use that for their business development campaigns. That absolutely does not work. And that's why I wanted to make this around how to use AI still with the human touch versus just how to use AI in general. Because anyone could do this. The truth is, the actual use to AI, right, is the barrier to entry is so low. Anyone can go onto ChatGPT, put in some prompts, put in some functions, and get an output like this. But what we want to do is be separated from the market and actually use it successfully to win new business. So I thought I'd start by what AI usually looks like now from most people using it. And like Ben said, you can absolutely tell if something like this has been written by AI, right? It's just so generic. It comes across with the specific like AI botty type tone. And we want to avoid that. So I'm going to show you in this video multiple ways how you can do this. And I'm actually going to be giving you as well in the chat some clay tables. If you have clay, I would recommend you use that and give you some like frameworks for clay tables that you can literally start using today. Okay. So what you want to learn is basically that AI can be seen, you basically need to reframe how you see AI. Okay. So you should be using it to replace the same process that you have just removing your manual effort from the process. So instead of getting AI to fully replace everything you're doing, you just need to empower, right? Empower yourself with AI. So the most successful use cases of AI that I've had and my clients have been from just redoing their manual processes just with extra AI in there and automation, right? So what I mean by this is usually we look at a three-step process, which would be mapping out your current most successful BD processes that are manual. Maybe it's reaching out to like lookalike companies, companies that are very similar to each other in a very specific niche market, and you have a message that you can write to them. Maybe it's companies that are hiring. You go on LinkedIn, find the company that's hiring, find the hiring manager or even the CEO, founder, whatever it might be, and drop them a message. You could also be doing a term that's sort of coined as ambulance chasing. Say someone's left the company, then you can keep your eyes on that. You need to obviously be active in the market and the network to understand who's moving around companies and use that as intent data to then go and do the outreach. But the reality is AI and automation can replace a lot of this. So we don't just want to fully rely on AI, we want to use it to empower us, right? So fundamentally, you must look at it like AI as an employee. It is a funny way of looking at it, but it's how I personally look at AI when I use it for my campaigns. Right. I don't just completely rely on it. I understand that it needs to be trained and taught how to perform at the highest standard. And it's funny because you actually can train AI. You can do something in ChatGPT, which is creating custom GPTs. And some of you may have even played around with this before. And you can actually train it with your information. So you can create your own GPT, put in your own information to it, and it will learn that. So then you ask it questions and it will respond in a way that maybe you would speak or based off your company's information, right? But the main benefit of using AI, right, is obviously that employees take days off and they have sick pay and these things, which of course is normal, but AI doesn't do that and it has no marginal cost of replication, meaning it creates leverage in your business. So you're going to be able to achieve a lot more with a lot less because it has no marginal cost of replication. If you want to scale your BD processes, usually you have to hire more people, hire more BDRs. With AI, there's no marginal cost of replication. You can continue to use it more effectively and use it at higher volume without a significantly increased cost. Obviously, there's costs to things like databases and Clay, but AI itself has a very low marginal cost of replication, meaning that it creates leverage, right? So I actually want to go into a proper campaign now, not just talk about all the theory of it. I want to give you a proper campaign that you can actually run using AI and automation. So this would be using Clay. If you've heard of Clay, just put like a yes or a thumbs up in the chat because I want to know how many people are familiar with this. If you're not, then I'll be very surprised. Yeah, I can see already loads of people saying yes. Cool. No, I'm not surprised. That makes sense. So that's really good to know that everyone already basically is using Clay because I have some Clay tables. You can see I've got links here that I can share in the chat, and you can actually use these tables live, and you can use them as soon as this call ends to actually start building campaigns. There's three main campaigns that we're going to go over using Clay. It's going to be companies that are hiring, it's going to be lookalike audiences, and it's going to be companies who have had someone leave so we can basically offer a replacement if we have a candidate who would be a good replacement. So just to give you an idea of how this works with this particular campaign, a lot of recruiters or BDRs will spend a lot of their time scraping job boards manually. Maybe you're going through LinkedIn, scrolling LinkedIn, you're trying to find the open jobs in a specific industry, right, that match your criteria, and then making a note of those and reaching out to the hiring manager, reaching out to the CEO or something like that. We don't want to be doing that. We want to be doing this automated, right, with something like Clay. And the way that you do it, I can actually share my screen and go into this live right now, is by going into Clay. Let's just open this up here, go open up my account, right? And you want to create a table, and it's going to be called a find jobs table. So let me just make this a bit larger. And what this effectively will do, will cut out all the manual process of you actually finding jobs, okay? So you can simply just put in job titles here that you want to search for. Let's just say it is a business development representative, for example. I'll put business development manager instead. You can put BDR, you just need to basically put it as your own search term. Clay has its own recognized ones. So say I want to look for BDMs, business development managers. Let's say I want to search for them in the United States. I put that in location. Let's say I want them to have a specific skill or be trained in a specific software, maybe, then you could actually put that in the job description and it would only pull jobs that are open that have this specific keyword in the job description. I'm going to leave this blank for now, but if you are in a specific market and only a very small percentage of these open jobs will apply to you, then you can obviously use that, right? So let's find this. We're looking for BDMs in the US, and we can very simply just press preview jobs, and it's going to find absolutely thousands of these. So I think I'm in Clay workspace that is lower credit, so I've quite a few of these workspaces. But what it will do is it will just basically compile you a list of loads of companies, right? There's probably going to be thousands in the larger table, all hiring for a business development manager, tells you where they're hiring, when the job was posted, and you have a link to the actual job URL as well. So you can see the actual job that was posted. Okay. So that's basically how you can find companies that are hiring very, very quickly, just using a very easy Clay search. What you do from there is you want to import this into a new table. Okay, and don't worry, we'll have this recorded. So if you want to go back over this and actually run this campaign yourself, you can do so. And actually, in the notes, I'm going to drop the link here as well for this table, so you can do this yourself. Skip ahead. Uh, Sorry, Tamara. I've just seen you said please don't post the links here. I just have, so I apologize for that. I won't post the next one. But yeah, thanks, Ben. So basically, that table that I just put in there, that link, that will
Oh,
basically
he said,
automate a lot of the process for you.
Harry,
Sorry,
jump in
Ben.
Harry, jump in real quick. He said, please post the links. Not please don't. So yeah,
Oh,
please.
sorry. It said I thought it said please don't. My apologies. Okay, cool. We're all good. It was me just skimming over a bit too quickly. My apologies. Cool. You the most basic search. So you find all these companies that are hiring for a business development manager. Great. You've got their company name, you've got their domain, all of this stuff. However, obviously, as you'll see, a lot of these will be recruitment agencies. We do not want to reach out to those. So we need to start cleaning this list. And also you can clean by when the job was posted. So we probably don't want to reach out to jobs that have been open since 26th of July, unless maybe you do. We could also do really old jobs, right? If they're still open and there's clear need there. But for the most part, we'd probably want to do jobs that have been posted in the last 90 days and remove all of these staffing and recruiting companies. So I also have a link to share with you, which is actually our internal hiring SOP. So this is what we actually use for our company. It's a step-by-step instruction of how to do this whole thing by yourself if you want to know exactly how it works. But one of the most important steps right at the beginning is removing all of the staffing and recruiting companies. So the way this is typically done is by adding an enrichment within Clay. So an enrichment will just give us more information within Clay about a specific company or a person or something like that. So let's just add this enrichment and we'll see that the enrichments cost money, or cost credits, I should say. So if I want to enrich the company, then you see it's going to cost us 1 credit per row. And what this will give us is the company size, the industry, right? So then we can exclude companies outside of our sort of bracket, and we can exclude companies that are recruitment agencies, right? So that's effectively the next step that you'd want to do. You'd want to add an enrichment, figure out how big these companies are, what industry they're in, and also get the URL of the company. So I'm just going to save this and run these for the first 10 rows, so you can see what it's like. And there's also a bit of a hack as well. If you really want to save Clay credits and minimize your consumption as much as possible, then things like filters are free, right? So that used 1 credit for every row. However, if I wanted to completely minimize my credit consumption on Clay, then what I would do is I'd actually start to remove keywords in company names, right? So if I went to filter on this column, then I could put does not contain any of, and then I could put loads of recruitment or staffing keywords. And this is a filter, so it's completely free. So if I just put staff, recruit, talent, right? Then you can see I've removed 7 companies already, 7% of the list, just with 3 keywords. And that hasn't cost any credits. So that's usually what I do at the start, and that's what this SOP will teach you to do. It will teach you to get rid of all the duplicates, remove all of the like keyword filters as well. So we basically just want to clean the list as much as possible for free, and then start to enrich it with extra information, right? So we can see that we've got the employee count, the industry, and we've got the URL. So once we have the LinkedIn URL of the company, and I apologize if I'm going a bit quickly here, what we want to do then is find some contacts at this company. So this is a really simple, nice and easy one. Let's just type in find contacts. Boom, it's one credit here. It's this one. This icon is actually using LinkedIn, so it pulls data directly from LinkedIn. We'll save the results in this table. Okay, so we all have it in one place. You can also save the results in another table, and that won't cost you a clay credit, but I'm just going to show everything in one for the sake of this video today. And then what we want to do is start filtering for job titles. So let's say I want to reach out to this chief executive officer. Let's say I want to reach out to the founder, the owner, the president, and all of these senior titles, right? I could put those in. However, if I was just to run this now, I would find the data for all of these companies, but a lot of these companies might be outside of my criteria. I'm just going to say for the sake of this video that my criteria is between 50 to 500 employees and obviously not a staffing and recruiting company. So the way that I would do that is actually use this thing called conditional formatting that's in the bottom of this pop-up here. I would go to use AI and I'd basically just prompt AI and say only run this column if, and then I'll do a forward slash and bring in the variables if employee count is between 50, 500, and if, then I would add in the industry is not staffing and recruiting. Okay, and then I can generate a formula and it should only run for specific companies. So as we can see, it will give you like a sample. So for this first one, they're in truck transportation and they're 350 employees in size. So it would run. The second one, too large and a staffing and recruiting company. Third one, too small, so it wouldn't run. Fourth one, too small also, right? So if I just put this in, then I can continue to add fields. Let's say I want to receive their name and their LinkedIn URL, and I'm just going to run this, right? So once again, don't worry, I have the SOP going over this step by step for everyone here that I can send to you if I'm going a bit too quickly. But you basically come up with an extremely targeted list, right, of companies that are hiring, and usually you'd have to filter this out manually and check everything yourself. But now you can do it with conditional formatting and formulas and AI, right, to find this CEO, president, or founder that is hiring for a business development manager in New Jersey that was posted on the 3rd of January. And then you can even go as far to use AI to actually use the job description to create your email. The way you do that is there's an enrichment called Claygen. So this is an AI web researcher that can go on any website pretty much and scrape data from it. So if I was just, this is obviously going to be a very bad prompt, but I'm just going to say, please help me write a personalized email using this job description. This is just going to be to paint the picture, basically. This won't actually be the email that you'd send, of course, but you could put different variables in here, like help me create a personalized first line, saying I have a candidate that's similar to this job post, but basically I'll just put in the job LinkedIn URL. Please help me write a personalized first line. Cool. And let's save this. I'm going to save it and just run it for the very first one. But you can do things like that using AI as well. So then we would have all of this in one place, and you could actually export this. For example, export this as a CSV file and upload it into your email sending software, whether that's SmartLead, Instantly, which we'll get onto tools in a second, actually. But you can basically you have everything in one table and export it into your actual sending software so that you can be sending super personalized emails. Now, this will probably take a minute or so. I can come back to this when this is finished. But that would be how to use that first table in that first campaign to find companies that are hiring effectively at scale, right? Because business development in 2025, you're going to need to do it at a high scale as well. Obviously, it's going to need to be personalized, but you're going to need to at a pretty large scale to see good results. So that's the very first one. So if I go back to sharing my screen here, I'll share all those links as well after, just in case I've missed any. So as I mentioned, use AI to help you write more effective copy to these leads on an automated basis. So instead of having to personalize the emails by hand, you can use AI to at least create 80% of the copy, right? Saving you a lot of the time. Um, to then actually send that outreach to these prospects, right? And as I said, using Claygen, you can make the campaign just as targeted, but fully automated and pretty much write the whole email as well, which is going to be really cool. So that was the first one. It's probably quite simple. I've seen some questions pop up, so I'll go over a couple questions now. Does Clay scrape only from LinkedIn or also jobs posted on Indeed, for example? So Clay only actually scrapes from LinkedIn. If you want to scrape from somewhere like Indeed or Monster or something like that, then I personally would recommend either using a tool called Appify.com, which has custom built scrapers for these sorts of websites. Yeah, absolutely. Or you could use Instant Data Scraper, which is actually a free Chrome extension where you can go on basically any website. The only website, funnily enough, that doesn't work is LinkedIn, but every other website will work, and you can scrape that data for free. So Appify, I think, is $49 a month. The Chrome extension called Instant Data Scraper is completely free. You would just scrape the data and then you'd import that data into Clay to then find the emails, to find the key decision makers as we've just done, right? So I'll put the link for the instant data scraper for you to have a look at as well. But no, Clay just does LinkedIn. So let's have a look at another campaign here. So I would just want to give you as much useful information and actual actionable steps that you can go with as possible. So what if you wanted to reach out to companies that have just had a key player leave? That's another campaign that obviously we can run. And we have the link for this campaign here. So I'm just going to go back and I'm going to import this link and share this in the chat as well. Effectively, we have a template that we can use here, right? So I'm just going to put this in. Now, the way this works is what we want to do is we want to find people who are new to their position and then check using Clay, AI and automation if they've just recently left their old position as well. If they have, then we can find the more senior contact at the old company and reach out to them with a highly personalized message. So let's say, for example, we want to create this table. Let's just say I want to do it using my workspace. Cool. So you can obviously import that into your workspace. You can go ahead and try and do it with me right now if you want to catch up. But I'll go through all of this just to start. It will look like this. It will look quite large. All you really need to do is make a couple of changes just to start. So there'll be an edit column called edit this column. And if you actually edit this one, you want to insert the job title that you're looking for here. For this one, I'm just going to do business development manager again. Don't know why that didn't let me put it in. Okay, it doesn't want to, for some reason, I can't type quick enough. So I'm just gonna have to leave it as business development for now. I'm gonna save this and don't run. And then find contacts. Just gonna leave this as it is as well. Cool. So you can pretty much leave that table as it is. All you want to do is just put in the job title you're looking for in the one that's called edit this column. Then what we want to do is we want to go to here, this really small plus where it says import profiles. And we're going to pour in profiles, people that are new to their job. Okay, so if I press if I press plus here, then let's say I want to find business development managers. I want to go to job titles who are new to their position. Business development manager. Let's just remove this. And how we find people who are new to their position is you go on experience. So let's say they have to have a maximum of 3 months in their current role, right? That means they've only been at that company for 3 months maximum. What we'll then do is enrich their profile to check what company they were at last and when they left. And if it was recently, then we can reach out to maybe it's the head of sales, VP of sales, CRO, okay, in this example. But you just tailor it to your own example. So I'm going to put that in. I'm also going to put United States again. Perfect. And because this is a pre-built template for you, I would advise putting a limit, quite a small limit of maybe 10 to 50 to start, because this will probably just run for you. If you import a list of 1,000, I don't want you to be in a position where you're burning all of your Clay credits straight away. So I'd just put a limit, for example, of 10 here, and I'm going to preview this. And we found some people who are new business development managers. So what I'm going to then do is import it into this current table, and the automation should take care of it. So this is a template that's already been pre-built. So what it will then start doing is enriching this person. I need to do this in another workspace by the looks of it. So it will enrich this person, find what their old job was and when they left. It will then give us a tick if they've left within the last 3 months. So we can see this person left their last position in September, so it hasn't ticked because it's outside of the span of 3 months. This person has left in October, November, November, right? What it's then done is it's gone to basically match the keywords. So we want to reach out to people who were business development managers before, and now they're also business development managers. Okay, this should hopefully make sense. Hopefully, I'm not going over it too quickly. But basically, if you go to edit this column, right, I've put in business development. So they need to have been a business development person before and still one now. The reason being is it won't run. You can see run condition not met for people that was something else. So this guy was a construction engineer, guy or girl was a construction engineer, but they did move their job in the last 3 months, but they weren't a business development manager, so I don't want to reach out to their company, right? So it hasn't run. It's only going to run if there's a match for the job title and they recently left. What will then happen is it should go on. Once again, I'm using a workspace for some reason that has no Clay credits. So I'll then go on to find the senior contact, like the CEO or something like that, and I can reach out to them and use this table and say, look, hey, so and so, I noticed that Caitlin, your old business development manager, recently left in October. Just wondered if you were on, the lookout for a replacement or you were on the market for a replacement. Um, so that's basically how you can make it much more targeted using this sort of intent data, because this is real data that's been pulled off LinkedIn. So you can make it really, really targeted. So that's another way that you can basically use Clay and use that Clay table that I've shared with you in the description. And then I also have a document going over that as well in a bit more detail. But this one is really, really targeted. It's worked really well for us because it's just usually what people would say manually, right? It's very, very similar to what you'd say manually. It's using people's exact names if you want in the email, using the exact position they were at, exactly when they left, and what company they've gone to now, right? So you can make it really, really hyper targeted, which I think works really, really nicely. So definitely try that campaign out. Once again, the link should be in there that you can play around with it. Just try not to burn all those Clay credits like I have myself. So press play back on here. So that's the next one. And another campaign, I mentioned there's three. This is the third and final one that I'm just going to go over on Clay, is going to reach out to companies that are similar to your best clients. So typically, with most businesses, even in other B2B industries, you want to be working with companies, obviously, you have good case studies for, and you perform well in that market. So instead of obviously, once again, doing the low leverage activity to find companies that are similar or network, or things like that, all of those things, of course, have a time and a place. But if you want to build a big list of companies that are really similar to each other quickly, then I would recommend to use Clay to do this, right? So once again, I have another Clay table that I can share. This is actually using a tool called ocean.io. So the way that this works is you just simply put a domain into ocean.io within Clay, and it will find a list of very, very similar companies. So say you have your best client. I'm just going to use obviously a very broad example here. Your best client is google.com, right? You'd put google.com in there and it would give you a list of however many lookalikes you want. It could be 100, 500, maybe even 1,000 lookalike companies that then you can go and market out to. And what I'd usually do is market out your results for that client. So say you've helped Google reduce their recruitment costs or recruitment expenditure by 23%, right? That's a very obviously just random example, but it should paint the picture. So if you've helped Google do that, then you can reach out to similar companies to Google and obviously basically pitch what you've done as a conversation starter, right? So that's what I'd do. I'd go into Clay. Once again, create a new table. I'll show you how you can do this. So I'll go create new table, type in lookalike, and it'll call find companies with lookalike. Go here, and then you can enter the company domain. So let's once again say it's google.com. You can add all the other filters in as well. Find what country you want them to be located in, what company size, what keywords, what industries, and then you can continue and it will literally just populate you a list within Clay of these companies that are very, very similar to each other. And that can be a really powerful tool. All you need to do after that is find the key decision maker or the right contact for you at that company. And I think the table I actually have has automated that part of it for you. So let me just put that link in here as well. So that should be the third final Clay table that you can have a look at. And this should basically, all you need to do is import the source. So you basically pull up the table, press this little small plus icon, and it wouldn't look like this. It would look like the lookalike type table, and you'd put the lookalike company that you want to create a lookalike of in there, and then the table would just run by itself. It would find the right key decision maker, and then you could obviously reach out to them. Now, that's only half the game, right? Getting all of this contact information is only half of it. It's only half of the game because you need to actually have a really good outreach message as well to do that. So I'm going to give you some frameworks. For the example I've just basically listed, which is the lookalikes, this is a framework that's worked really well for us and our clients. Okay. And it looks something similar to this. So it's saying, hey, first name, came across your company and noticed similarities to client name, i.e. Google. Here's how we help them achieve transformative results, right? And then you say result one, result two, result three. These need to be extremely tangible and extremely specific. So if you're just saying we help reduce recruitment costs, that's not good enough, right? So you need to come with something that's really tangible, really specific, like an exact figure or exact percentage, and that's going to basically help you make the message more compelling, right? Then you can explain how you help with them, how you help them, sorry. And then the final call to action would be, I believe we could drive similar results for you and your team by applying these proven strategies. Would this be worth a conversation? So I like to have my like call to action very soft because it's just starting a conversation. As I'll go on to one of the latest slides in this presentation, AI is not here to replace the whole sales process. It can't do that. I'm a bit huge advocate for AI, but it cannot replace the whole sales process. I only truly believe it's very good at replacing the very first initial bit, which is the outreach message, right? From there, then we want to turn it into human conversation, human interaction as quickly as possible. So not just getting people to click a link to book into your calendar as soon as possible. We actually want them to start a conversation and go back and forth with us, right? So that's basically a framework that I would use. I can put this framework in the chat as well. If you want to have a play around with this, use Ocean to build your list of lookalikes, then use this exact script and see how it goes. Cool. So now I actually want to go on to AI tools that you can use today. Of course, Clay is a big one. This slide specifically isn't specific tools, but this is the infrastructure of how I would start thinking about using AI for your business development. There's four main pillars that I would use, right? So the first one is data. That is really all we use Clay for, is data. Okay, so it's finding data, finding companies that are hiring, finding companies that have had people leave, finding lookalikes, finding email addresses, finding phone numbers. Data, AI can basically speed up the data acquisition process significantly. So that's what we use AI for a lot in our company. Then, of course, number two is outreach. So whether it's on LinkedIn, email, cold calling, socials, if you even use that, you can use automation tools to replicate that process at scale as well. You also want systems and handling. So systems and handling is sort of like responses and management of leads. I would definitely use a CRM to do this. I think it's very difficult to manage this without a CRM and some form of communication. So it could be Slack, right? I think having something like that is really important. I put Zapier there because I'll explain to you how it works in a minute, but you could have every time someone responds to your email or responds to a LinkedIn message, through your automation, you can be automatically notified in a different channel. You can even have a text go to your phone. I set that up for a client where they had a text go to their phone as soon as someone replied to their email campaign, so they could call them up straight away, right? And that's more on the system side. And then you have automation talking to all of it. So automation, once again, I'm going to go on to the exact tools in a second. Could be Zapier, Make, these sorts of things. And it's making sure that the whole system is running as one. There's no, you don't need to do anything too manually. The whole system can talk to each other, right? So with regards to data, there's only one tool that I would recommend you go all in 2025. And I've not stopped talking about it today, so you can probably guess what it is. And it's Clay. The reason being, Clay is an accumulation of all of the old databases, right? And I say old, they're not really old, they still exist, and people still use them, but they're old in comparison to what you can achieve with Clay. Like, for example, Apollo, huge database. I still use it. I'm sure many people in this meeting, this webinar will probably use it as well. That is used by Clay. So you can connect your Apollo API key to Clay. So you can just use your credits directly from Clay, but your Apollo credits instead of the Clay credits, right? It's the same with a tool called Find Email. It's the same with a tool called Lead Magic. All of these different databases you can plug into Clay or just use them on Clay itself. And this is going to help you find real intent data. So I personally think there's a lot of tools out there on the market that say they can do intent data. Companies like, I don't know who's this is, I don't want to call out people directly, but companies like, for example, 6sense saying that you can look at direct intent data based off what people are Google searching. I don't personally believe that that can be actually the most efficient way to do it. You don't actually know if that's true. If someone's searching for a recruiter, you don't know if it's a candidate looking for a job versus a company who's actually searching for a recruiter. Whereas if you build your own intent data, you know you own the data. You can actually see what's going on. You can see the company that's hiring. You can see the person that's left. You can see the company that's a lookalike, right? You're more in control of the data. So that's why I recommend Clay as building first party intent data, so your own intent data, versus relying on someone telling you that someone's Googling something from a certain IP address that you should reach out to. I think you should build your own data and use that in your own outreach, right? So Clay is the one source you want to be focusing on to get ahead of your competition because it's an accumulation of everything and it's just growing at such a rapid rate that I don't see it slowing down at all. Yeah, don't worry, I'll share the SOP links and everything as well for you to have a look at. Now, AI tools you can use today for your outreach. On LinkedIn, there's quite a lot. There's, of course, a lot more than what I've listed here, but the main ones that I actually recommend would be Zopto. The reason being is that creates a custom proxy every time you log into LinkedIn. So it's very safe. It's on the expensive side, but it's a much safer tool. You can also use Dripify. You can also use HeyReach. HeyReach I recommend if you're scaling LinkedIn, if you have multiple accounts, maybe 5, 10 plus, you can connect them all for a much basically more cost effective way, and you can manage them all in one inbox. Dripify, I think, is one of the oldest players in the game, so they're good at what they do. And then for email, I'd only use two of these tools. I would only use these two, Smartlead or Instantly. I personally don't think you should be wasting your time with anything else. And the truth is, as I've said at the bottom here, people spend 80% of their time trying to figure out what tool to use. It's completely the wrong thing to focus on because at the end of the day, this is just a distribution channel. It's the same with anything. Say you have a physical product, you can master the distribution channels, but if no one wants your product, what you're selling, you're not going to make any sales. It's the same with if your outreach message isn't very good and your lead list is completely unqualified and inaccurate. It doesn't matter how good your distribution channels are, nothing's going to happen. So I don't think people should be spending 80% of their time trying to figure out what tool they need to use, because the truth is they all do pretty much the same thing. And I've used basically every single one and sent a lot of messages and a lot of emails from every single one. And the truth is they all do a very similar thing, right? So don't spend most of your time figuring out. Figure out most of your time getting better data and better messaging. That's what I'd recommend. And then tools you can use for automations and system handling are things like Zapier. So Zapier is sort of the main one that people use for automation to get basically systems to talk to each other. So say we're running that email campaign that was companies that are hiring for BDMs right now. That's great. Say we're running it in Smartlead. Soon as we get a reply in Smart Lead, we want to get that response into Slack or on my phone or sent to me via email so I can get back to that lead as physically quickly as possible. Zapier will help me do that. Make.com will help me do that. N8n.io will help me do that. Zapier is the most user-friendly one. Make and N8n are a bit more technical and involve a little bit more code. It obviously allows you to play around with it a little bit more, but I still heavily rely on Zapier and I use Zapier mainly for my business. But it will just basically help you reduce the friction between getting a response and getting them on a call. Because the number one thing, if we're talking about business development now, the number one thing to get leads on a call is just how quickly you can get back to them once they've shown interest. I'm sure people have seen the statistics. It's the same with advertising. People have interest right at the point of when they take action, and then 15 minutes later, it's died down. So if you can create systems where you can get back to leads far quicker, you're going to have far more success than your competition. And if this is completely automated as well, you're just going to blow your competition out of the water, right? For a CRM, I use close.com. The reason I use this, as we'll go into in a second, is it has something called a predictive dialer, or basically like a power dialer. The predictive dialer will actually call multiple phone numbers at once, and then as soon as someone picks up, it will divert to them. If someone calls back, then you will have a system where it will leave a voicemail and you can call them back after as well. But it just means you can do tons more calling and tons more outreach per unit time, increasing your efficiency and increasing your output. And then Slack just to manage all of the communications in one place. So those are the tools that I recommend. Once again, I can share those with everyone after. So what are some real world use cases of this? I've talked about the theory, I've talked about the tables. I know I've given you the tables, but I want to show you what it's actually capable of doing. So if you recognize this, this is Smart Lead. These are just screenshots of my Smart Lead campaigns to show you what these campaigns are actually possible of. So the first one, I was marketing out to companies that were hiring, and there was 31 positive replies or 31 leads within 14 days. So as you can imagine, reaching out to 5,000 people within 14 days. I had a lot of email accounts to help me do this. So I had a big infrastructure here. That obviously helped. But yeah, we had about a 3% reply rate, and 50% of those replies were positive with the copy that we were using. Then the second campaign was marketing out to lookalike companies. So we built a list of about 700 lookalike companies, 37 replies, so 5% reply rate, and then 21 of those, 56% of those were actually interested. This is one of the best campaigns by far that I recommend. If you can build a list of lookalike companies and market out your results to them, it's hard for them not to be interested because they can see there's so much trust built there. They know this company, you're dropping their name, you're dropping what you've done for them. It's a really good campaign to run, right? And then the third one was marketing out to companies who had someone leave. So I think we reached out to 216 people, 8 replies, 3.7% reply rate, and then 4 of those were positive replies, right? And obviously, a positive reply is not a call booked. You need to actually get on the phone or respond to them to get the call booked in. And that's where the automation will come in. The quicker we can get back to these positive replies, the more success we're bound to have. So new opportunities as well. So I just want to talk about a little bit about the speculative stuff. I've gone over a lot of detail and I do enjoy the technical stuff, but there's some things that are a bit more speculative that I think will emerge a lot more in 2025. This is just more of an open discussion, right? So I think AI voice agents are going to get much larger. There's a company called 11 Labs. I'm not sure if anyone's heard of these, but they grew quite a lot last year and they're starting to do things. They're starting to have use cases for hospitality companies now. I think I even spoke to one the other day. I tried to phone a restaurant to book a table, and it definitely wasn't a person that responded to me. I don't know if it was just a standard bot or an AI agent, right? So we could have the same things when it comes to interviewing mass scales of candidates, right? So say, for example, there's a position that's just thousands of applicants and it's mass hiring. Then you might see AI voice agents come into play here where it can ask specific questions, gain answers, and send that data to maybe the head person hiring just to save time. But I definitely think it's going to be on the rise. I don't think it's going to be replacing anything like cold calling anytime soon. It's just definitely not there yet. But it's going to have its use cases when it comes to mass applications when it's just answering very easy questions. Like when you're booking a restaurant, you just need to know the time, the date, how many people, and that's it. Maybe if it's a, quite a, say, let's say, for example, a low skilled job, just needs to find the experience, you know, how long they've been at their last company, all of these basic questions, and it can just gather data. So yeah, I don't think, and I'm not going to lean into voice AI for business development because I don't think it's going to be a cold calling tool. Maybe towards the end of 2025, we'll see. But I think it's really good. And then there's another one that I've heard a few people speak about, and I've used this myself personally, which worked for me okay, but I just prefer to run my standard campaigns because it was a bit more complex. There's a tool called La Growth Machine. It's a platform very similar to Dripify and HeyReach, these things. So it's a LinkedIn email automation. But what you can do is you can send AI voice notes on LinkedIn. It doesn't have to be AI voice notes. You can just send like a standard voice note on LinkedIn, but you can automate this sort of stuff. So I just want to basically open your mind to what's going to be possible and what's going to be happening within 2025. There's going to be people sending AI voice notes, obviously AI calls, these sorts of things. So it's worth keeping your eye on, and I'm keeping my eye very close to these. I'm not using these substantially at the moment just because I think it does lose the human touch a little bit, but I'm keeping a close eye on them. Right. So the best practices for maintaining humanity in AI-driven processes is not to rely on AI to do the whole thing. That's just the truth of it. It's just not good enough to run the whole sales process. All we want to do is automate and make the very first step as efficient as possible. So all we want to really optimize for, if I go back to a couple of slides, is getting these positive replies. That's how I personally see AI. As soon as we have positive replies, AI shouldn't be taking calls. AI shouldn't be, doing things like that. Maybe AI can help you write proposals and reports based off the call notes of your call. That is also something I use it for. So I have my note taker in calls, and then AI can create a proposal straight away after that call from the stuff we discussed in the call. That can be really good. But you don't want it to do much more than that, right? Just admin tasks after the call has actually been booked. Because fundamentally, especially in the recruitment space, you just want to be building relationships and nurturing leads, but you want to obviously do it in a more efficient and more affordable way using AI. So don't get AI to replace your processes. It's not here to replace things, just enhance it currently. So the dialer I mentioned was Close CRM, close.com. I'll see if I can put this in here. I'm just about to speak about that now, actually. So what I'll go on to here is sometimes the issue is that you're on the wrong vehicle. So obviously it goes back to that very first email we looked at that was written by ChatGPT. No one's going to reply to that. If you send that out, you're just going to see zero success. And it's because you're doing the same as everyone else. Like, as I said, 90% of the market does stuff like that and sees messages like that, right? So if you do the same as everyone else, you only ever get the same results as everyone else. Most people only know ChatGPT when it comes to AI, and in all honesty, it has many limitations, not because of the tool itself, but just because of the barrier to entry, the accessibility of it. It's super, super low. Whereas there's two tools that I'm going to show you that I'd like you to try and basically play around with, that I think will be more successful for you in your BD and content creation as well. Claude is one, and then Perplexity is the another. So Claude is one of the best tools for actual copywriting and content creation that I've used instead of standard ChatGPT. It phrases the answers in a slightly different way. And I'm going to show you basically, I've been using it for my LinkedIn for the last probably 6 months or so. And I haven't really been spending any time creating LinkedIn content. It's something I personally want to do more of this year. But nonetheless, it's allowed me to grow, like 125,000 impressions over the last 90 days and reach 46,000 members over the past 90 days. It's not crazy. Obviously, I'm not a LinkedIn influencer by any means, but this is literally just from maybe 1 hour a week using AI to help me create content. So it was very easy for me to do, very low friction, and it just meant I could get my stuff out there much quicker, right? So for these tools, I recommend you use Claude.ai and then Perplexity.ai. They basically frame the answers slightly different to ChatGPT, even just for content creation. I know on LinkedIn when I can see someone's just put something into ChatGPT, it has the funny emojis as well. I'm sure other people are starting to recognize that. So if you use these tools, try and use it for your content creation. I actually have a separate video. I'm going to run over way too long if I keep talking. So I have a separate video that I can send people that trains you how to use these tools for actual specific LinkedIn content, which is like a 10, 15-minute Loom video. So if people are interested in that, connect with me on LinkedIn and I'll send it over to you. But definitely have a look at these tools. Claude and Perplexity just makes your content and copywriting sound a little bit different to the standard AI. Okay. So what I wanted to go over now was just a quick little bit. Once again, I know people will be interested in the cold calling and the dialing stuff. So whether it's for you or your BDR, I wanted to explain to you how you can empower your BDRs with AI. So personally, I think you guys a great like duo here of Clay and Close. That it's basically predictive dialing plus data-driven calling, right? So that list that we had a look at that we basically developed, what was it, 40 minutes ago now, finding companies that are hiring. What you could then do is go on to find these people's phone numbers. You could just add an enrichment in Clay, really, really simple. You just go into Clay, press add enrichment, type in mobile, and you can find the senior contacts, their mobile numbers within Clay, right? What you could then do is export that list, put it into something like Close. So you've got the data from Clay and the actual execution in Close, which will then do a big, it will dial all of these contacts. Whoever picks up, great, we're straight onto them. And what will happen is Close can pull up notes about this contact. It's a really good CRM. All my sales team use it, and I've been using it for some time. So say, for example, we know this person's hiring for a BDM. As soon as they pick up, we could have the notes pop up that are pulled directly from Clay. We know when the job was open. You could even have the job LinkedIn URL there, so you can press on it, see how many people have applied, see what they're looking for in the exact job description, and it will make the whole BDR cold calling process much more efficient instead of just churning through numbers, on like a sheet or something. It's a very inefficient way to do it. So I'd recommend using Clay or at least looking into Clay and Close directly to add in predictive dialing to make more calls per every unit of time to be more efficient. And then when those calls pick up, you actually have notes in front of you of what you can say. So I definitely recommend that. And obviously get your team creating content. Once again, something I want to work on this year. It's a goal of mine. But just like software, like AI, content or media is a huge lever to achieve success with your BD, right? It's one of these things, once again, that has outsized returns. If you can get viral content, it doesn't need to be like crazy viral content, just things that perform well on LinkedIn, you're going to get in front of so many more people. Once again, it's one of these things where content goes from one to many. Luckily, I'm not sure how many people are in here, but I'm very thankful to be able to speak to a lot of you at once versus speak to one of you at a time, right? So it's just something to consider that content, I think, is going to be a big part to play. Not only is it one to many instead of one to one, but it's also just going to have that nurturing effect as well. If you're always top of mind and you're always posting stuff on LinkedIn, then it's going to be much easier to close deals in the long run because the more people see you, the more they'll trust you, and it will just get deals across the line. So use obviously AI to help you create content as well, which will be a huge lever for your team. So we're pretty much there now. The key takeaways for this would be finding companies that are hiring on LinkedIn using the table I sent, finding companies who have had an employee leave using the table I sent, finding lookalikes, once again, using the table I sent, and then use these tools. So this is what I would personally do if I was relatively new to this AI and automation stuff in 2025 as a recruiter. Source data pretty much only from Clay. Obviously, you can use LinkedIn and things like that, but it's going to be much more effective, genuinely, yourself learning Clay and doing it on there than trying to hire a VA to pull you data. That's just how I would do it. Source data from Clay, upload it into SmartLead and Dripify. Once again, you can choose. It's not the end of the world if you have Instantly or SmartLead. It's basically no difference. But my personal preference is SmartLead and Dripify if you don't have any tools right now. And then piece everything together in the back end using Zapier and Slack. So that's a very simplistic sort of overview of what I would do at the end of it. So if you're looking for someone to run campaigns like this for you, obviously we're here at quiet.com. Had to get a little plug in there, of course, and drop me a message on LinkedIn. I'm just going to try and post stuff like this all the time, stuff that's valuable. I'll be posting more SOPs that you can use, more clay tables and things like that. So yeah, it's time for a Q&A now. So I'm not sure how we're going to do this. If people just want to fire away questions and I can answer them,
I got the Q&A
or
box
if people
already
want to ask
set up to
questions
help
easier
you
way, I'm
with.
not sure how it works, but I'll just start with the questions in the chat.
We got the Q&A box up also.
Perfect. Thanks for sending my LinkedIn there, Ben. So we've got a question for cold calling. I've been using Ring Central. Would it be a good idea to switch to Close? So, however I make basically the premise I go by to make all of my decisions is going to be data driven. What I would do is use Ring Central again for another week or two, right? Or maybe it could be a good idea if you've got 1 month left to just to cancel it. You can always renew it at the end. Track data for that month or that 2 weeks. How many dials have you made? How many pickups have you had? How many bookings have you had, etc. And directly compare this against your data within Close. I personally would recommend Close, but I'm biased because I use it every day. But if you just map out the data for even at least 1 week at a minimum, then you can see obviously you can see the proof in the pudding for yourself. You want it to be a data-led, data-backed decision. So I'd probably just track your data. And if you don't have tracking sheets, once again, that's a reason why I'd move to Close because it's easier to track stuff there. But you could even track it in a Google Sheet, for example, right, for a week, then track it on Close, have a direct comparison and see which one looks better to you. Hopefully that answers it. It's a bit of a cop-out answer, but at the end of the day, it does depend on yourself and it depends on the results you're getting. If you're getting great results, don't fix something that's not broken.
Harry, can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? Throw in the chat if you guys can hear me.
I completely missed the Q&A. So I'm not sure if you guys can see the Q&A that I've got up on my screen now.
Maybe Harry can't hear
Uh,
me.
what have I done? See if I can stop sharing. Oh, maybe I can't hear Ben.
Hello, hello, hello. Hey, Harry.
Oh, I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
Okay, cool. I'll help you with the questions.
Yeah, okay, cool. That sounds good.
All right, cool. Well, I'm going to be jumping into the Q&A. So thank you everybody for chiming in that you guys could hear me because actually my mic broke yesterday. So I couldn't even say goodbye on the last session. So real
Oh
quick,
no.
before we jump into the Q&A, drop an emoji on your thoughts about this session.
It's
Oh,
the moment of truth.
it is the moment of
No
truth.
thumbs down.
All right. First question. Does the available jobs table work only for US based jobs or do you search or do you guys also have a search in Europe?
Yeah, so you can search globally. So I probably skipped over it very quickly because I wanted to fit everything in. But basically, as you build that table from scratch, it will ask you a location where you want to search these jobs. I selected United States, but it honestly got pretty much every country there. So you can do it completely globally. You can do it in a specific location. Say randomly, for example, you want to look in Romania in Europe, then you can do that as well. So I just picked US because I knew there'd be a lot of jobs there. But if you do want to make it specific to one country, you can do that.
And Sean just asked, I just signed up for Clay. Which plan would be most appropriate to get started? There's quite a few different plan options. Not sure which one contains the most necessary functions.
Yeah, so I don't think you can go if you can afford it, I wouldn't go wrong, or you can't go wrong with the $350 a month one. You get a really good amount of Clay credits, and it pretty much allows you to do every function. Only the very expensive plan, I think it's $800 a month, allows you to do some things with APIs. But that will be a very, very technical basis. Even the $150 a month plan is not bad. 350 I would recommend. It's going to be probably the best one, like best bang for your buck. But it also depends on your budget as well, right? But even, if you start to get one sale from this, it will make it worth it. So I would recommend the middle plan.
I feel like this is a softball question for you, Harry.
Yeah.
Are there Clay experts that you can hire to help you do this?
There are, yeah, there are. There's a lot out there. Obviously, I wouldn't say I'm at the level of some people out there. I do know a thing or two about clay, and I'm happy to help people with it. But there's clay communities. In fact, I actually recently started a school community on clay, how to teach clay. So people can join that if they wish. That's free. But there's a lot of clay experts out there. You can also search on LinkedIn, clay agencies, they call themselves now, clay agencies, clay agencies. But yeah, there's a lot of people that can do this stuff for you. I would usually check their videos out, see what they've done before, and if it looks good, then Put your trust into them and they can run it for you.
And there's been a bunch of questions about links. So what I'm thinking, Harry, is like I chat with you after we're done and we find a good place to put the links. Maybe on your talk page, we can maybe add a link list.
Yeah, I didn't realize how many links I had. I've got a lot, so
So
yeah, it'll probably be good to put them somewhere else.
I'll probably look at the at least by tonight East Coast time. If you go back and look at the talk page for this talk, I'll have Harry send me all the links, including the SOP and every. I see a lot of like direct messages to us about those. So like it'll be like the information about his talk, and underneath the information about a talk, it'll have all the links that he shared. Is that good? Cool, awesome. Throw me a thumbs up if that works for everybody. All right. The next question is, how much would a tech stack like this cost to use all or most of these tools?
Yeah, great question. A very important one. So, with the tools that I recommended, I'd recommend getting Clay, about $350 a month. Smart Lead, around $94 a month. So, what's that? Just under 450. Dripify is around $70 a month. And then I'd have Zapier and Slack. Zapier you can get for as little as $29 a month. I think you can even get a free plan. Overall, if you're looking at getting the full tech stack and being able to do a decent amount of volume, it's probably going to look like in the region of maybe $600 or so a month if you want to run it yourself. If you wanted to run tons of email accounts as well and run email at high volume, I'll probably add on an extra $200 or so if you want to run a very high volume. But a stable amount will probably be around $600 or so a month.
All right. And are you going to post the prompts that you use in Claude and Perplexity?
Yeah, I can do that. I can do that for my content. What I like to do, I can put a bit of context around it as well because I basically like to. It's a bit odd, but I have a conversation with it first about the content I'm going to create. Those are basically my prompts. I have a conversation. I get to ask me questions and then answer those, and it creates content from those. But yeah, I can put those in. That's absolutely no problem
Awesome. So we got a whole list of stuff to put together. How do you
for
track
sure.
leads that you previously contacted to ensure that you don't repeat contact? I suppose your CRM, use your CRM for this, but what is the workflow logic? For example, does your CRM talk to Clay to indicate that you should exclude previously contacted leads?
Yeah, so you'd have Close and Smart Lead integrated. Luckily, what we use mostly Smart Lead will do pretty much all of it. So I would usually only run a handful of campaigns. Those three are potentially examples that I would look at, and I'd group them up, right? So I'd have a Smart Lead account with three campaigns, and then anytime I upload a lead list, it will automatically look for a duplicate. If it finds a duplicate, then I can tick a button that says I don't want to upload this contact, and it means that I won't be able to put them into the system. Equally, if someone has unsubscribed or opted out, then in Smart Lead, I would basically change them to like a do not contact put them on the do not contact list. Then, if you upload this contact in any campaign throughout your whole Smart Lead account, it will automatically exclude them. So I'd actually say 90% of the heavy lifting is done within Smart Lead itself. But then when you're moving data around and stuff, you want to have it in Close. So you can have those two talk to each other, but most of the heavy lifting is actually done within Smart Lead itself. It can automatically deduplicate contacts and remove contacts that are in your do not contact list and stuff like that.
It'd be great if I actually hit the unmute mic button. All right. Christina says, if you're using Sales Navigator currently, should we cancel this and replace it with Clay, or is Clay great in addition to Sales Nav?
Clay is great in addition to Sales Nav. I would keep Sales Nav. The reason being, it depends what you're using Sales Nav for, but a lot of people, myself included, use Sales Nav to do outreach as well. Clay is a data sourcing platform. LinkedIn Sales Nav can be used for distribution and outreach. So if you're just using LinkedIn Sales Navigator for the filters to build a list, then I'd just do it on Clay. But if you're also making use of extra connections, extra emails, extra obviously things you can do with the features of Sales Nav, then I'd keep it. But if it is simply just for the filtering aspect, you'll be able to do all of that within Clay and you can actually get rid of it.
If you're just starting out and needed to be cost conscious, which tools would you consider a must have versus a nice to have to grow your business?
So if you want to be cost conscious, what I would do is you can start a campaign for free today if you needed to and get somewhere. The way that I would do that is create a free account on Clay and create a free trial account on Dripify. Connect to your LinkedIn account to the Dripify account. You have about 7 days to use it for free until you need to pay $70 or $79 a month. Then within Clay, use the free account to build lists of companies that are hiring, for example. Now, what you may have noticed, is you can actually build lists of contacts in Clay and get their LinkedIn URL without having to use a credit. That might not make much sense until you actually get a chance to play around with Clay, but you can find people's LinkedIn URLs on Clay without using any credit. So it doesn't cost you any money. What you can then do is export this list into Dripify, create your outreach message, put the list in there, and boom, you can have 7 days worth of running completely for free of outreach. And obviously, if something comes from that, great, and you can reinvest it in. If not, then I would start with just Dripify and Clay on the lowest sort of tiers possible. I would only start with one channel, email or LinkedIn. I personally would recommend LinkedIn for recruiters. Master that. When you get very good at that, then you can afford to put extra expenditure into the other channels, but just get good at one channel first. And for most part, that's going to be LinkedIn. So that's what I'd recommend.
This is another money one. How much do you invest in money in order to have all these tools to integrate them and work and flow as you showed? Is there a way to reduce costs? Clay already has its own costs. How can you do this without increasing costs? I run a small company.
I like the question. There's a few layers to it, but I think I understand. For an exact figure, I won't share that, but I spend quite a lot on Clay to run it for a lot of different companies. So um, it is expensive for me. But if you're looking to basically make it as cost affordable for yourself as possible, which I'd imagine is the goal, then you can't do things like creating free accounts all the time because you'll get basically banned from Clay. So I wouldn't recommend doing anything like that. What I would do is just have either the free plan for as long as you can, or the lowest tier plan, and just try and maximize the use of that data. Like use the free plan, as I said, to get LinkedIn URLs that then you can put into LinkedIn automations, or do the actual manual outreach yourself. You've either got two levers to pull most of the time. You can spend time or you can spend money. If you don't have much money, then you need to spend more time. And that's how I would look at it. Clay is going to be able to save you a lot of time, but in return, you spend money. If you have a lot of time, you don't have much money, then spend the time to do the manual outreach, to do things manually, to find numbers manually, to do the outreach manually. So it depends on your budget. If you have budget to afford the cheapest plan, go with it for 2 to 3 months, stick with it and see what it produces you. If you don't have any of that, then obviously you just need to understand that you just need to put more time into it. And that should equally work as well. You should still get a return from your time.
Tim says, I run a 360 desk and this process seems to be straightforward, but time is limited. Any suggestions on outsourcing to a VA that could accomplish this task?
Great question. So what I would do there, personally, I've done something similar to this before. What you'd want to do is you want to look at communities, mainly Slack communities, like the actual Clay Slack community or the Slack community. The reason being, this actually has a lot of VAs and people from all over the world in these communities, and you can post jobs in there. So instead of posting a job on LinkedIn or Facebook or something, you're going to appeal to a different demographic. I would go to Slack communities, post jobs in there, and you'll find a lot of the type of like people you're after, a lot of VAs and things like that. So that's how I try and hire some of the talent that I find to that's able to use Smartly, to use Clay and things like that, that's cost effective. I would find these like small knit communities, mainly in Slack, the Slack community for Clay, the Slack community for Smartly. Post your open jobs in there, people you're looking for, and you'll get applicants for sure.
Awesome. And then uh, if you did these tech stacks, what LinkedIn plan would you get?
Personally, I always get LinkedIn Sales Navigator just because it allows me to send a lot of emails and I can do outreach from there. But it's not required. It depends on obviously how much outreach you want to do and what the goals are with it. So if once again, if you're just using LinkedIn from a data sourcing point of view, or you have someone on your team that's currently got recruiter or sales nav, but they're just using it for data sourcing, I would cut that and I'd just have them on a basic plan. Use Clay for all the data stuff. I'd only have LinkedIn plans when you actually need to do the outreach, personally.
And I'm sure this is like one person that asked both these messages. Is there a risk of getting your emails flagged for spam? And also, how do you avoid the need for opt in permissions?
Yeah, good question. So the opt-in permissions, it's effectively like a gray area with every business. It's the same with cold calling. Is it right to, are you allowed to cold call someone? Yes or no? Obviously, technically, yes, everyone does it. It's the same with email. The way I see it is if you can genuinely help someone, someone's got a business development manager position open, it's been open for some time, you know exactly how long it's been open for, you have a candidate that could fit that role, you're reaching out with value. I think the whole space has got a bit sort of tarnished from people just sending mass, crazy scale outreach that's completely irrelevant. If you have something that looks like it's actually been written by yourself anyway and something personal to what you'd write, I don't think you need to. Well, you don't need to worry about the opt-in permissions. If you're looking to do newsletter type content, then you need opt-ins. But for this, you can just email people with the emails you find from Clay. And then sorry, what was the second question? I've forgotten it. My apologies.
Is it was how do you get avoid like getting hit by spam filters?
Ah, yeah, that's it. I could probably go on for another hour about that. There's a lot of different things, but fundamentally, you just want to make your emails not too long, not send too many of them from one account. So not send more than, say, 40 or 50 a day consistently from one account, and make sure your DNS settings are configured correctly. Those are the three main things you can focus on. Once again, I could talk about this for probably a full hour, but those are the three main levers. Don't make your emails too long. Make sure you don't send too many, and check your DNS settings to make sure your emails can actually deliver properly.
Somebody asked if you could give some more information about your services and maybe even the fees with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's pretty much a bespoke, it's on a bespoke basis. So what I'd recommend, if you basically add me on LinkedIn, I'm always open to a chat. We can talk about it either through LinkedIn DMs or jump on a call if you're interested in learning more, and we can take it from there. So yeah, I think the best thing would be to learn more about your current situation, what you're looking for, how aggressively you want to scale, and things like that. So just hit me up on LinkedIn and we can have a casual chat about it, no problem.
Somebody asked, do you have a clay community that you recommend?
Clay community, I think the Slack community, if you have Slack, is really good. They've got a lot of members. It's quite active as well. There's also a Clay, I think it's called like Clay Creators Program. I'm technically part of it, but I think they've got a good community there. If you're really involved in or into Clay, you can join like a Clay Creators Program and get access to the other Clay creators as well. These are probably people who are experts in Clay. That could be good. If you are looking for just something small and easy that you can learn quite quickly, I've got a free school community as well that, once again, this will be one of the many links probably that you can join. I've got some videos on how to use Clay there as well. But Slack community is a good place to start.
You mentioned not to waste time on other SaaS products. Is there a major difference between Mixmax and Smartlead?
I have never heard of Mixmax personally. I don't know if I can do some very quick research here now. Considering I've never heard of it, I would opt for Smart Lead, and I maybe may have missed out the fact I haven't heard of it. It may be very good, but the truth is, the to be an email sending platform and be good at it, you need to invest quite a lot in making sure your IP addresses are good because that means you have good deliverability. That's why I usually stick with the big players because they have the biggest team of developers and they pump the most money into deliverability. So that's why things like Smart Lead and Instantly are always my go-tos. Mixmax, this new one, I don't know if it's even new, but I haven't heard of it. Could be great, but personally, if you just stick with one of the fundamental ones, like Smart Lead or Instantly, you can't go wrong, really.
Somebody said, I stink at content creation on LinkedIn. Claude is very intriguing to me to help with this and do better in 2025. Any further tips as a novice Claude user to develop content? It just is it just going back and forth to the platform to tailor these messages, or specific highlights I should start with?
Great question. Honestly, I would probably start with a bit of back and forth because you want to understand how it presents you its output also. I know it's a bit of it's not the best answer. I would start with back and forth, get an understanding for the platform. When you're actually asking for content to be created, you need to understand the fundamentals of the content you want to create as well. So I usually ask it, I say, look, everything I create needs to be concise. That's one thing. It needs to have a soft call to action. And I actually even say to it, don't make it sound too much like AI. I tell that to the AI and it somehow understands me. So just try and think of like three core fundamentals that you want in your content. For me, I want conciseness, soft call to action, so nothing too aggressive, and it not to sound like AI. So that's what I ask it. Figure out what your three like core principles are, put it into Claude, and it will create content around that for you.
I think I can answer this next one. What kind of ROI have you seen from all these tools in terms of acquiring clients? I'm pretty sure that you hit six-figure months.
Yeah.
Are there any specific ones that have had the biggest impact in your business development? Probably Clay.
Honestly, but Clay is probably the biggest one, to be honest with you. Clay is pretty incredible. So Clay can just automate so much. It can get so much data. The data is very high quality. Smart Lead also for me has been very, very good, which is the email sending software. Um, so I'd say, yeah, honestly, they're probably all of importance. They like it's an ecosystem that needs to go together. If I just had Clay and no Smart Lead, then it wouldn't work. I need all of them to work. But Clay is probably the thing that I've spent the most time on that's given me personally the most ROI.
Awesome. Well, that is it. So, hey guys, I just want to say thank you so much. I want to almost say like day five, but we are in day four of the summit. It has been power packed. One thing I want you to do is either uh, send a message directly to a speaker on LinkedIn, to a speaker that's had an impact, or actually, you got a question. I see a hand up, but I'll answer that in a second. Or share it on LinkedIn. Share like some of the things that you've learned, and share some of the things that you're excited about, using to crush 2025. And real quick, I see Robin has a hand up. Give me one second. Robin, can you ask a question? Up, oh, hands down.
No worries.
Awesome. Well, Harry, I just want to say thank you. Me and Harry got some work to do to combine all the links into a place. And what I will do for all those still listening, in his talk page under the description, I'll make sure to add all the links that he wants to share in there so you can easily go back to the talk page, grab the links that you need. So that way you can grow, and also make sure to follow Harry on LinkedIn and send him a message too. All right, guys, we got a quick break. Go if you're on the East Coast, maybe go grab lunch before we get started rock and rolling at noon. So see you guys later and keep crushing it.
Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.